Hey guys, I hope you're having a good weekend. We have our next Chad Daybell letter here, and this is on letters from Chad. These are directly from Chad to, my understanding is his daughters who put it on the website, from death row. This is letter number 3. My previous letter concluded with Tammy and I moving with our children from Utah to Idaho in 2015, and I will continue from that point. We bought a home north of Rexburg in an area known as Salem. Our children were enrolled at either BYU, Idaho, or Sugar Salem High School, and they made some wonderful friends. Tammy also flourished in the new surroundings. She loved the rural lifestyle and plenty of property to create her own little farm. She'd always had a soft spot in her heart for animals, but in Springville, we had a small yard that limited the types of pets we could have. However, soon after we arrived in Idaho, Tammy began to assemble an ever-growing family of pets, including chickens, pigeons, cats, rabbits, and of course, Tammy's favorite pet, Indian rubber ducks. We named them all and enjoyed caring for them. She also created several garden areas around the property she would carefully maintain. After moving to Idaho, Tammy and I stayed busy running our publishing company. I was the president and editor-in-chief, while she was the vice president and chief financial officer. I was also making good money writing a weekly online column, and along with receiving royalties on my published books. We felt blessed. So Tammy didn't need to work beyond her company duties. But several years earlier in Springville, she had taken a part-time position as the computer lab teacher at our children's elementary school. She loved working with students, and the job was very rewarding to her. When we were prepared to move to Idaho, Tammy looked for several positions, and she was hired as the assistant librarian at Madison Middle School in Rexburg. She was later hired as the librarian at Central Elementary in Sugar City, which was much closer to her home. She also took on the task of creating a computer lab at the school, modeled after the one she had in Springville. I would visit Tammy at the elementary school every couple of weeks, and I helped her out during open house events such as back to school night. It was fun to be greeted by the students as Mrs. Daybell's husband. Tammy had always strived to be physically fit. In Idaho, she turned part of our front room into her workout area. She enjoyed doing yoga and liked to play several exercise video games such as Just Dance, Walk It Out, and Exerbeat. It wasn't until the final year of her life that she started having noticeable physical setbacks. She got a cold during the holidays, and she battled chest congestion and a deep cough throughout early 2019. She was also experiencing menopause symptoms with regular hot flashes. She was now 48, but she said she felt she had aged 10 years in just a few months. Her exercise routine faded away, and she became content just to sit on the couch, watch TV, and work on her laptop. My children and I encouraged Tammy to visit the doctor for a full health exam, but she resisted going. She had grown up with a firm belief in holistic medicine and natural healing remedies to regain her health. I had seen those methods produce many positive effects over the years, with Tammy having rapid recoveries, but this time seemed different, as if something had shifted within her body. I regret not being more insistent in having her get a physical exam, because there were 4 major reasons for concern, and they all got worse as 2019 progressed. First, there were Tammy's lengthy colds and prolonged coughing fits. Second, were her lethargy and overall lack of energy. This wasn't the same woman who could work in the garden and care for her animals all evening without stopping. She began using the phrase "need to sit down" almost daily after any sustained physical activity. The third reason for concern were her swollen joints and bloating in her abdomen. Tammy initially tried to brush these off as symptoms as temporary water retention, but they never went away. One day she came up to me, partially lifted her shirt, and grabbed a hold of her belly and said, "Look at this. I could almost hear my guts sloshing around." Around the same time, Tammy and my son attended a health wellness fair. They were examined by a nurse who was bothered by how swollen Tammy's legs were and that she had developed varicose veins. The nurse urged her to see a doctor about it, but Tammy refused. She finally admitted that her condition might be more serious when she called me into the bedroom one afternoon. I found her sitting on the edge of the bed, wiping away tears from her eyes. It was late August 2019, and the new school year was about to begin. As she sat on the bed, she had a pair of pants halfway up her legs. She said, "These pants fit me just fine at the end of the school year. Now I can't even get them over my hips." She stood up and demonstrated to me in frustration. None of her other school pants fit either. She went to the store the next day to buy replacements, and she ended up having to go up 2 pant sizes. She was very discouraged about it, and she eventually resorted to wearing full-length skirts most of the time at school. The fourth cause of concern was a series of fainting spells. Tammy felt her equilibrium was being affected. as well as her stamina. It wasn't unusual to find her in the kitchen with both hands on the counter and her head down. She would say, "I'm okay, I'm just a little dizzy." Tammy's first major fainting incident happened in April 2019. She had finished putting the animals away for the night, and as she crossed the back driveway, she blacked out and crashed forward onto the asphalt, injuring her wrist. She came into the house and explained what happened, saying her wrist might be broken. I urged her to go to the emergency room, but she refused. She took an herbal remedy instead, and the pain went away in a few days. Side note, just thinking here, and if my spouse came in and said they think they broke their wrist, I would drive them to the emergency room. But what do I know? This is his story. Summer, we went to the LDS temple, and during one of the ceremonies, Tammy fainted, collapsed backwards, and then threw up all over the front of her dress. She was very embarrassed as the temple's medical team rushed into the room to care for her. In September, she essentially repeated her fall in the back driveway. She fell in almost the exact same spot and re-injured her wrist. This time, she didn't object when I insisted on taking her to the doctor, who prescribed pain medication and gave her a wrist brace to help heal the damage. I suggested she take a couple of school sick days to recuperate, but she shook her head and said, "No way. You know how much I hate a substitute messing up the library. I'll just sit there if I have to." From that day on, the setbacks became more frequently. Her nose was running constantly, and she would have sneezing fits. She also began to complain she was having an out-of-body experience. She described how her spirit would hover above her body for a few seconds at a time. In early October, one of those incidents happened while I was in the living room and she was in the kitchen. I suddenly heard a loud crash and rushed into the kitchen to find Tammy had actually fainted in the open fridge. She had landed hard against one of the shelves and was slumped down in the bottom half. I helped her stand up and told her I was very worried about her. She just waved her hand and asked me to help her lay down on the couch. The day before she passed away, she came home completely worn out from setting up the displays for the school's upcoming book fair. The evening, she told family members she wasn't feeling well and later had a bad coughing fit before throwing up. We went to sleep, and when I woke up the next morning, she had passed away. I will describe that terrible morning and subsequent events in the future later. Pause. Side note, I noticed how you missed out the fact that somebody had tried to pew her in the driveway. Anyways, but as word spread of her death, everyone was devastated because she had been such a powerful, wonderful influence to so many people. We all feel that loss every day. I miss and love her. Pause. Side note, you can miss someone and love someone, but how does your new wife feel about that? You know, the wife that is in prison as well? Continuing on, Tammy was a true angel on earth, and I know she is still watching over our family. My children and I have felt her presence many times since her death. We sense her and particularly interested in her precious grandchildren. We believe families can be together forever in heaven, and although she has moved on ahead of us, we know we'll be reunited with her someday. And that's the end of it, and I got so much to say. Okay, so the family can be together in heaven. And how's she going to feel about your new wife? The wife that you said you've been reincarnated to be with how many times now? And that you guys were destined to always be together? I'm starting to sense a little bit of turbulence in here because, 1 + 1 is not equaling 2. It's technically 3, and I think someone's in denial. Who knows, denial or not, that's the end of his third letter. It goes on with the bookshelf notes and musical notes, but I'm not going to put those in here. All right, guys, have a good day.